Taming the High Cost of College, Episode 50.
You have kids, they grow up, and before you know it, it's time to plan for college.
Where do you start?
How much is it going to cost?
Will you qualify for financial aid?
Should you be looking into scholarships?
When will you be able to retire?
What about student loans?
The list of questions is never ending. The good news is, all the answers are right here. Welcome to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Here is your host, certified financial planner, Brad Baldridge.
Hello, and welcome to Taming the High Cost of College. I'm your host, Brad Baldridge. Today we have a great interview with Dr. Tracey Marks. We're going to talk about our students and how they may become night owls as they become teenagers. We're going to talk about study habits and ways that we can help our students succeed in college. So we've got a lot of great information. As always, show notes are available at tamingthehighcostofcollege/50 for episode 50. Let's jump into the interview with Tracey. All right, today we're sitting down with Dr. Tracey Marks. She is a psychiatrist in Atlanta, and she has a practice where she works with busy working moms and helping them with their various issues as far as dealing with their busyness. So welcome, Tracey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
All right, so I guess before we jump into the college-related material, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you came to do it?
Okay, sure. I am a psychiatrist in Atlanta. And I'm in private practice, and I've been practicing, for about 15, 16 years, something like that, in private practice. And over time, I have evolved. I mostly see adults, general practice, but over time, I've evolved into having an interest in treating or working with women and in kind of, I call it lifestyle management issues. And it kind of started really with an interest in how people were sleeping. I would just randomly ask people who come in for whatever problem they had about, well, how are you sleeping? Oh, terrible or not good. And I was surprised at how many people would say that, even though that's not what they came in through the door to see me for. They weren't seeking help for sleep. They were seeking help for some other problem. But at the root of it, I saw that their poor sleep had a lot to do with it, their problems. So helping people kind of clean up their lifestyle as far as their sleep, because I really see, I don't only do sleep, but I do see sleep as kind of one of those first indicators of someone's overall health, similar to someone's weight. And so helping people address their stress levels, their ability to perform in their work and in their family by addressing their lifestyle and and how healthy they are. So I'd been doing that for a while, and then that just kind of, I decided it was very hard for me to convey all of the information that I wanted to convey to people in just a little bit of time that they would see me, even if they came and saw me for an hour session. It just wasn't enough time to get everything in. So then I created a podcast and specifically targeted working moms and some of the issues that they have with parenting and all of just the busyness and all the tasks and things that they have to do as well as work, and address some of these lifestyle and health issues in the podcast. So that's kind of where I started and then evolved to.
Okay, well, great. I guess my first questions then are going to revolve around that sleep questions, because I think a lot of parents are dealing with sleep. And we were just before the show, we were talking about teenagers and how their sleep seems to change. And I think it might cause a little stress in a lot of families. I know even in my house, I have a 12-and-a-half-year-old, and he is now starting to not really, be all that interested in going to bed at 9 or 10. Now it's, he'll be up to 11:30. And if we, let him have, his iPad or whatever, he'll sit and play with that until we force him to lay down and go to sleep. Is that normal?
Yeah. Yes, that is very normal. And so I'm glad you mentioned the iPad, because I have a tip about that. But our body clocks are such that we are built to sleep when it's dark outside and be awake during the daytime when the sun is out. That's just, so if we had no clocks, no electricity, we would naturally sleep at nighttime. But as we grow and mature, and particularly in the adolescent years and you start getting hormones and things, those years, your body clock can lengthen to where it's more than a 24-hour period. And when that happens, people can get what's called delayed phase sleep disorder, where you just cannot get tired early in the evenings. So for someone who has just a regular, say, 9 to 5-ish day, you'd normally start getting tired or have this kind of wind down period, say 7, 8, 9, you start slowing down, and all of that is to prepare for sleep in a few hours. But as adolescents or those teen years, they can get to where they don't even get even remotely tired until like midnight, 1 o'clock, and they can't help it. So yes, they're not, it is a struggle, or it can be a huge struggle to get them to want to go to sleep. It's like just forcing them. And even if you take away the iPad and all of that, you can still make them go to their room, turn off the light, and they're just sitting there. And then they can't naturally fall asleep until maybe 1 o'clock, and then the alarm goes off at 6. And then they've got to get up and go to school, and they sleep through their first period. And that's unfortunately just a problem that happens in that age period. And the degree to which it happens varies from child to child. And some people, adults, it can still carry on into adulthood, but most times people grow out of it.
Okay. So if we're dealing with that, say, and I think that's pretty common because I think a lot of high schools start early and kids tend to stay up late. So how much sleep should a high school student be getting typically?
A high school student, or let me say, well, I'll back up just a little bit. In the, say, tween years and things like that, is when children, tween and below, is when kids need more sleep than the adult, which would be, say, 10 to 11 hours of sleep. By the time the hormones kick in and you get more of an adult-like body, you start needing more the 7 to 9. So high school age, those kids usually need about 8 hours of sleep. The average amount of sleep a full adult past 18 needs is between 7 and 9 hours. And this is according to the National Sleep Foundation and other scientific studies as well. So to answer your question, high school age, around 8, 9 hours of sleep. And that's a tall order.
Right. I would say if they're not easily falling asleep at night and they're forced to get up because typically school starts pretty early. So is there anything we can do about that to help them fall asleep sooner or sleep better?
Yes. So here's 2 recommendations I'd make. First of all, is addressing the body clock issue. So as I mentioned, part of that difficulty in being sleepy at night is their body clock, and then part of it is their activity and the things that they're doing and not wanting to stop that stuff. As far as addressing the body clock, one of the most powerful triggers for when you sleep is light, sunlight in particular. And so you can use what's called a light box. They fit in the palm of your hand now. We originally used them for seasonal affective disorder, but now it's also used for a lot of other things. But changing when you sleep is another usefulness of it, particularly people who travel with jet lag and things like that. But exposing someone to exposing someone to light early in the morning, particularly, let's say you set the alarm clock, 6 a.m., you would use the light therapy for about 15 minutes. That could help pull your child's sleep sooner or earlier in the day, so that instead of him being naturally sleepy around midnight, now he starts getting sleepy earlier in the day, like maybe 11 or 10. And that might not seem like a huge difference, but even that 1 or 2 hours can make a huge difference. And the thing with the light is that it's blue light. It's the same wavelength and color as sunlight, so it mimics exposure to sunlight. So it's not the same as just turning on the lamp in the room.
Okay. So that's a device that you would use to try and say, hey, it's morning, by turning on a light earlier in the morning, whether the sun is up or not, and then you might naturally shift. Okay. And what's the other strategy?
Okay. And then the second strategy is if your child likes to use devices to go to bed, likes to read or text or whatever the case may be, those devices actually emit a blue light as well, a little bit of it, that can disturb sleep. So if you have a child who is, say, spending the evening hours, say 7, 8, 9 o'clock, looking at an iPad close to his face, he's going to have difficulty falling asleep at 11 or midnight because of that exposure of the iPad. So you can use blue light blocking glasses. They're easy to find on Amazon, and that's all you have to type in, blue light blocking glasses. And using those in the evenings when you're looking at devices could help prevent some of that interference in their sleep because of the device.
Oh, okay. And then based on what you're telling me, it's the fact that your eyes are seeing the light is what has the effect. It's not hitting your skin or some other, but it's the fact that you're actually awake and your eyes are seeing it that causes the problems?
Correct. That's exactly right. And with the devices these days, as opposed to, say, 10 years ago, we didn't have these. You'd look at television. Televisions can emit some, particularly the big LCDs and all of that, but they're so far away. Here we sit with a device that emits this really close to your face, or even sitting at a computer for that matter. So that has more of an impact these days than, say, what we were doing 10 years ago.
Okay. Now, another thing that I see going on with my soon-to-be teenager is he really likes to sleep in occasionally, where, especially like a Saturday or Sunday, he'll want to sleep in till 10 or 11. I know at least I think that's relatively normal that a lot of teenagers do that, but is that good or bad, or does that really not matter in the scheme of things?
Well, in this particular case, where he's probably not getting enough sleep because he's going to bed at 11, midnight, and getting up at 6, he's not getting enough sleep cumulatively over the course of the week. So he's got to do some catch up on the weekend. So in this case, it's one of those things where you just can't help it. He still needs to do some catch up. In the big scheme of things, it's not good to, say, shift your sleep back and forth by several hours on the weekends, because the effect of that is similar to that of like jet lag. So I tell people, you shouldn't really vary your bedtime more than an hour or so. If you do, say, you normally go to bed at 10, and then on the weekends it's 1 or 2 a.m. because you all are having family movie night or something like that. Monday comes along, and you're not going to be able to go to sleep at 10 because it's like you've traveled west, and you're now back east now trying to get back on your schedule. And you can then spend a couple of days trying to recoup, and then you spend a couple of days in your normal routine, and then you're back doing it again, and you've got this back and forth thing. And our bodies like to have a routine and not be kind of shifting back and forth a lot like that.
Okay, good. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about college, because, well, I guess maybe we're starting to see this in high school as well, but kind of the all-nighter, or certainly the study into the wee hours of the morning at least. Is that effective? I mean, I guess we talked a little bit, and I don't think it is. I personally couldn't never make it work, but I think I see even high school students now, they're saying, well, by the time my activities are over and I sit down to study, I end up studying from 10 p.m. till 2 in the morning and then getting 4 hours of sleep. Intuitively, I think that's bad, but can you explain why?
Sure, I can. So your intuition is correct. It's bad. And the reason is because there's a lot that happens when we sleep, but one of the many things is called memory consolidation, or essentially the formation of memories or solidifying the things that you've learned. So you do things during the day. Some things are old hat or just routine, and some things are new activities. And to be able to carry that information forward to the next day, it's like you take in all this data during your day, and then at nighttime, it's like your brain kind of files this information away in drawers for you to be able to easily retrieve the next day. So that's one of the things that happens during sleep. particularly during the deep phases of sleep. So if you cut that off by only sleeping 4 hours or even pulling an all-nighter, you are not getting the memory consolidation that you need to be able to remember the things that you want to remember. So it's actually, it actually works against you to pull all-nighters or do this kind of thing because on the surface, it just seems like, okay, let me just wait till the last minute. This is more in college probably than high school, but wait till the last minute. We pull an all-nighter. We like jam all this information in, and then I can just spit it right out in a couple of hours when I take the test. But your child would be so much better off getting a good night's sleep so that they can actually remember that stuff that they learned previously by sleeping rather than not sleeping.
Right. So I think that boils down to good study habits where you learn the material earlier on and then sleep on it a few times. Then you may remember it long term as well.
Correct. So when finals come up and you've really got to remember that stuff you learned early in the semester, you're better able to do that than if you just kind of learned it short term for a test by pulling an all-nighter.
Right. So I think parents can start teaching their kids study habits, because I know I did it very poorly when I went through school, and I'm seeing the same problems with my kids now, that what they think they should be doing. Like, I guess another thing that they do is they study with multiple devices. I mean, it's not unusual for me to come home from work and see my son working on his schoolwork, sitting in front of the TV with headphones on and trying to do his homework all at the same time.
Yeah, the headphones is not related to his schoolwork. It's something else, like listening to music.
Listening to music, the TV is on, and he's working on, theoretically, trying to get his homework done.
Yeah. There's kind of different thoughts about that. On the one hand, there are some people who, with their learning style, they're better able to learn with a slight distraction. So like listening to music, they're actually better able to learn listening to something else while they actually work through, let's say, a problem set or something. I mean, it's hard to read and listen. Right. But kind of just similarly to kids who may shift their legs around a lot, or they may shake their legs. Sometimes you may have sat next to someone where that drove you crazy. They're shaking their legs, but they need to do that in order to focus. So there is that scenario where a different body activity like moving or listening, that makes it easier for you to do this other task. On the flip side of that, though, is that unfortunately, I think with all of the technology that we've just gotten as a society to where we need high intensity stimulation to just keep going. We can't tolerate not being stimulated. And unfortunately, all of that distracting stuff just makes it harder for us to be able to remember things and be efficient. It just reduces your overall efficiency.
Right. Okay. So I guess it's kind of a mixed answer then. It's not necessarily bad if they may need to have some music, or might be helpful in some cases, but in other cases, maybe it is a distraction.
Right. So I guess the message there for a parent is that by knowing what your child needs, and by the time they get to high school, you've had enough of a pattern of how your child learns and things. If you've seen that over time that your child has trouble focusing unless he's fidgeting, or that he actually is getting his work done when he's listening to the music, then you can embrace that and not necessarily look at it as this, oh, come on, put that stuff down, get your work done. If he's getting his work done, it may be because this actually helps him get his work done listening to music. So really, you're looking at what's the outcome of this behavior and assess that first before making a judgment. I guess that's the message, the take home there.
Okay, great. Now, I know you are a doctor, so let's talk a little bit about some of the I guess it's ADD now, it used to have a different name slightly. But anyway, there's medications for that, and I know it's pretty prevalent in some high schools and a lot of colleges where kids are taking those types of medicines to quote unquote help them study.
Yes. So the technical term really is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, but we shorten it by saying ADD. It's just easier to say by leaving out the H. But it is appropriate for some people because not everyone manifests it as hyperactivity, needing to run around, go, shake your legs, that kind of stuff, a lot of movement. Many kids can just manifest it as trouble paying attention or being very easily distracted. It is a real problem, and it's kind of a double-edged sword in that I think because of all the misuse of the stimulant drugs like Adderall, that many parents don't want to think that their child may actually have this problem and have them start having to take medicine and things like that. If your child really does have trouble sustaining attention and focusing, and usually you would have seen that earlier in the, say, elementary years or junior high school years, then if your child really does have this problem, it really can make a huge difference if they're able to tolerate taking medication to be able to organize their thoughts. Okay. Some children, though, can have just a mild trouble or marginal trouble staying focused, but they still get by because they're able to compensate enough. So maybe it takes them longer to study. Maybe they stay up later at night because stuff just takes them longer. They hate reading, things like that. So they get through school, get through high school, they do okay. They get to college, and now college, the demands of college is so much greater than it was in high school that they now have, it outstrips their ability to compensate themselves. So then they start having trouble keeping up with their schoolwork. And then they may now really need to have the issue readdressed of whether or not they should or should not take medication to help them stay focused.
And how would you tell is there any good signs or indicators that you would watch for?
Yeah. So here's the difference between a child who is having real trouble with maintaining attention versus the child who goes to college and just wants to be able to extend their abilities by taking the medicine. So they take a friend's Adderall so that they can pull all-nighters or, say, study all the way up until midnight. Our brains aren't meant to be able to sustain full attention from 8 o'clock in the morning until midnight. We're just not, no one should be able to do that. However, anyone probably could if you took enough medication to do that. So the child who really has trouble just focusing just in a normal day and not trying to just stay up late, that person probably, you will see the attention issues show up in other areas and not just when it comes to study habits. So they may have trouble staying focused on what you're saying to them. They interrupt a lot. They forget a lot. You have to remind them of things all the time. They're very disorganized. Those are kind of the classic signs of a child with attention problems where it's more than just they're trying to get performance enhancement from taking someone's Adderall. If you don't see those things and your child does pretty well in school and now they get to college and they're telling you they're having trouble staying up late and things like that, that's more likely someone who doesn't necessarily need medication to stay focused. They just need to adjust their study habits, as you were mentioning before. And, on that note, let me include this. I know my parents were teachers, and growing up, I don't remember talking about how to study in college. I don't ever remember us having a conversation like that. I just kind of figured it out that I do better. I was an engineering major. I do better if I do my hardest studying 2 days before the test because that night before thing just stressed me out too much. And that's just something I fell into. But I never, and I didn't want to do all-nighters because I felt terrible the next day. But I never had a discussion with my parents about that. And it's probably just because they saw me studying and doing well in high school and figured they didn't need to talk with me about how to study. So that's why I think this discussion we're having is a very good one, because if you have a child who is doing well now, you may not, like my parents, feel like you need to have a discussion about how to develop good study habits in college because they're doing well now.
Yes, absolutely. And I think another important point is there's kind of bars or kind of levels that students go through. So for some, there's a transition from middle school to high school. For some, that's where they run into some troubles or need to relearn, or where middle school was so easy they didn't really need to do much, and now in high school the classes are a little tougher. Another
That's
level
right.
is when you start taking like an AP course or a college level course in high school, where now they're stepping it up again, where the courses that you're taking tend to take the top 10 or 20% of your high school class. So now the competition is stiffer, the pace is faster, and now all of a sudden some students either need to learn skills that they've never had to have because it just came naturally, so to speak. And then the next step is when you go off to college. And I always tell parents about, when you get there, now you've got a lot of time to yourself. You've got class time, but between classes, nobody's saying do your homework, study ahead, get your reading done, take good notes, rewrite your notes, all the stuff that you could do. Nobody teaches you that. Nobody makes you do that. And some kids naturally know how to do it because they've had to do it along the way. But a lot of kids kind of breeze through high school and got decent grades, and all of a sudden they hit the wall. And that wall could be freshman in high school, could be junior in high school, could be freshman in college, could be junior in college, where it just kind of ramps up, or grad school even.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that's a really important point to bring out, is the child who just breezes through just because they either their school resonates with them in a way that, the subject matter is such that, it's fine for them. But as soon as they are really challenged, they hit a wall. And up until that point, if you've never really addressed some of these issues, like going back to the sleep that I was talking about, not trying to stay up all night to cram stuff in and preparing and all of that, if you never did that because you never saw them have a problem with it, when they have a problem and they're on their own, particularly in college and it's unstructured, they can really just start floundering. And you not know about it because they're away in college.
Right, exactly. So I think that's another thing that parents can help their students with. And there's a book out there, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I will put it in the show notes as well, that kind of talks about how to study and be a good student and get prepared for the college life as compared to the high school life.
Yeah, I would think that'd be a great resource. Okay. Even and it'd be a great resource, and having parents impress upon their children the need for that, even though it might not look like they need it now, because, hey, they're getting all A's and they've done well, so what's the problem? I'll do the same in college.
Right, exactly. And just because it works, it doesn't mean it's going to continue to work.
Correct.
All right, well, we're running out of time, so before I let you go, can you give us 3 quick tips that might be related to what we've already talked about, or other things that parents can use to make their transition to college a little smoother?
Sure. I think where I would start is addressing, or for parents not to freak out necessarily if your child is having some trouble sleeping in high school with this going to bed late thing and all of that. Chances are it will pass. But if it's presenting a problem right now in high school, try using a light box. You can get them on Amazon as well. 15 minutes usually can do the trick of exposure in the morning, and you can see a difference in it adjusting your child's sleep within like 3 or 4 days. It works that quickly. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two would be also on the issue of this going to bed late at night kind of thing is if your child uses a lot of devices in the evening, studies at a computer and things like that, try using light blocking glasses. It can feel weird wearing sunglasses in the house, but it really also can make a big difference in their ability to settle down for bedtime at a reasonable time if they spend a lot of time in the evening in front of these devices.
Okay.
And then number 3 would be reiterating the importance of discussing good study, I'd call it study hygiene. In the sleep realm, we call it sleep hygiene, but good study habits before going to college. And on this issue of, it's really not a good idea to pull all-nighters if you want to do well on your test. You might think it's good, but it really isn't, because your brain has to have some time to remember the stuff that you just learned. So you need to be able to study in a way that you do it ahead of time so that you can remember the things you studied, and getting them to know that ahead of time. Because I think some kids just don't know that. And so why not just go ahead and cram all this stuff in?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, great. You gave us a lot of great information. If people want to get in contact with you or learn more about what you have going on, how can they get more information?
The best place to reach me is at my website, which is beyondburnout.com. And you can find links to my podcast on that website, but you could also go to beyondburnout.com/iTunes.
All right. Great. Well, I appreciate all the great information. I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and we'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully you learned a lot from Tracey's interview. Again, as a reminder, the show notes are available at tamingthehighcostofcollege/50. Also, I'd like to ask that you leave us a review in iTunes. If you go to iTunes and look up Taming the High Cost of College and either give us a star rating or a written review, that helps us get found by other people that are looking for our podcast. So I would appreciate that. But that's all we have for this week, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Now it's time for you to take action. Head to tamingthehighcostofcollege.com for show notes, bonus content, and to leave feedback for Brad. The next step on your college journey starts now.
Brad Baldridge is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research and an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Brad owns two companies, Baldridge Wealth Management and Baldridge College Solutions. The Baldridge companies are not affiliated with Cambridge Investment Research.